歡迎大家收睇第7集 HSBC Live Live Well Series。咁今日我哋講翻脊骨健康，同埋我會分享下點樣可以活出有意義嘅人生。So today we're going to start off on all fours once again. In the previous spinal episode, we touched upon the cat-cow, and I'm actually going to be building upon that today. So starting position, making sure your knees are underneath your hips and your hands are underneath your shoulders. Okay. The reason why we want to make sure this stable base is there is because in the second part of this progression, we're actually going to be lifting our knees off the ground if you're okay with it. If not, you stay with your knees on the ground. There's always the option to stay at level 1, but I'm introducing level 2 today. So in your segmental cat-cow, we're going to start with the tailbone. We're going to start by drawing the tailbone under, drawing the belly button in, pulling the rib cage in, and then pushing away the floor as you protract your shoulders and then tuck your chin into your chest. In this cat position, we're just going to hold the stretch. Know what it feels like, 100% flexion for your spine. And then from here, as we hold that stretch, you keep your chin tucked in, and then you move just the tailbone. Compressing the abdominal wall, you uncurl bit by bit, vertebrae by vertebrae, dropping the belly down, starting to pull the shoulder blades back, pulling your chest through, and then your head comes up last. Once again, you don't crunch into the neck here. You make sure your spine is long, your neck is long, and you grow tall through the spine. Then from here, tuck the chin down. Now we're going to move from head first, keeping the tailbone where it is. We're going to push through the floor, drawing in, round, and then from here, we slowly curl on under and hold your cat position once again. In your cat position, you suck your belly button up, not just your belly button, but also your lower belly. So you want to compress this space here as you hold that in for another 3, 2, 1. And this time we're going to go back to the tailbone first. Tailbone curls under. Start to move segment by segment, all the way up and towards the chest, shoulders, coming up into your cow position. We've only got one more rep like this before we progress. Tucking the head down. So remember, head and neck is an extension of your spine. Compress, control, little bit by little bit. You'll start to notice that over time, the more you do this, you'll start to get more fluid throughout it. But it takes practice. Spinal work is probably one of the more boring sides of mobility that people don't really want to do. But I have to say it's probably the most important part that you should be doing. So from there, we're going to find our neutral position. We've done our 3 reps, now we're going to link it up and make it a progression. So level 2, we're going to find the neutral spine. Neutral spine is just having that natural lumbar curve here rather than trying to overdo it. So here we now look to keep this neutral spine, lift the knees 1 inch above the ground. So here you're going to find the demand through the quads and the arms is quite a lot. So if at any point you feel this is too much, you can always bring it back down and go back to the segmental cat-cow from the floor. Before here, we're now going to go back up into 2 reps only because this is going to be slow and controlled moves. Keeping your chin down, looking straight down at the mat, hover over the floor. Now I'm going to start by curling my tailbone up, coming all the way into my cow, and then from here, tuck the head down, push away from the floor, suck the belly down, and come into my cat. Then from here, uncurl. Bit by bit, you'll start to notice how much harder it is to control the spinal movement while you're in a hovering base. And then from here, come back down. Good. And from there, drop the knees back down. Come back into a child pose just for a quick break in between the exercises. You stretch out your spine here. You lengthen a little bit more. That right there was the segmental cat-cow, just to go into spinal flexion and extension. And I'm going to just draw it right back to the theme again today, so living with purpose. That might seem quite out there considering we're doing spinal mobility, but I actually want to bring it back to the why question in terms of why I do what I do. I believe that you're only as young as your spine, so the more that you move it, your spine is that main trunk. It's like the tree trunk of your body. Without that, the branches can't survive. So when you take care of your spine, when you actually create movement, because remember, each vertebrae, in between every single vertebrae is an individual joint. And if you understand that joints have poor blood supply and the only language that the cells speak is force, you need to move in order to promote the blood supply to feed the joints. So from here, we're going to come back up. As you're in this position now, you're going to flip on over onto your back. So we move from the front to the back. As you lie down, we're actually going to be focusing purely on your thoracic spine right now. And you're going to notice in this position, you'll get some kind of lumbar extension. Lumbar spine is just your lower part of your spine. So we want to set up with your feet about just next to your bum, about 2 to 3 inches. If you stretch your arms out, you should be able to touch your heels. This is how far you want to be with your bridge right now, not too far, because I actually want to be able to hold onto my ankle later. If this is not accessible to you, that's okay. You can always do it in a modified version, and you can have your legs further out and just come into this position here, and we'll be able to roll over. But for today, I'm going to teach you, if you can, stay with me. Your feet come up close to your bum, and you're going to touch your heels. The first thing I want to do is curl my tailbone under, like I'm doing a pelvic tilt, and I'm slowly bringing my hips up. So I'm moving segment by segment, vertebrae by vertebrae. At the top, I am not trying to come up as high as I can. I actually want to keep that neutral spinal position, so I have more of a flat surface from my rib cage through to my hip bone, okay? Now then from here, I'm going to work on my right arm coming over. I'm opening my feet a little bit so I have a wider base. I'm going to keep my left hand onto my ankle, and I'm going to raise my right hand up. From here, all I'm looking to do is reach over to open up my thoracic spine and come back in. We're going to stay on the same side. Be wary not to drop your hips as you're in this position. We've got 4 on the left-hand side. As I go over, I reach, I come back in. And if you want to, you can grab onto the front of the foot if you have space. Going for 2 more, reach across, come back in, and then last one, over, and come back in. We're gonna go straight to the other side. Take a break if you need to. When you take a break, you just drop your hips down before you come back up. Now we're gonna reach over to the right side. Make sure you're actually onto the outer part of your shoulder. Left arm comes up, keep your hips where they are, roll over. Come back in. Then again, roll over. Come back in. 2 more. Hold on if you can. Roll over. Come back in. Last one. Rolling over. And come back in. Slowly come out of that. Draw your knees to your chest. And then just rock from side to side. So we've gone from our spinal flexion extension to going into our thoracic rotation, and we're just going to finish off with lumbar rotation here. So in this position, we're going to bring our legs into windshield wipers. Our feet are going to be as wide as the mat, or just off the mat rather. And then all we're looking to do here is keep your arms out wide. My knees are going to drop over to the left-hand side. I hold, then I come back in, change to the other side. So each time I bring my knees to the ground, I'm driving it down with purpose here. I know what I'm after in terms of opening my lower part of my spine and my hips right now, so I'm going to channel that energy into those areas rather than just move from side to side. With every single movement that I do, I've got the intent of controlling it. I want to know what muscles I'm supposed to use. Otherwise, there's really no point in doing the exercise. Exercise is often just a tool that we like to use to teach you about your body, but realistically, there's so many things that can be transferred across into other aspects of your life. How you deal with hardship, how you deal with stress, how to switch off from the outside world to focus on the task at hand. If you let your mind wander, or you're not focused in on the one thing you're supposed to be doing at the time, change to the other side. Often that's where you have the distraction. And then you won't do the job so efficiently. So from here, we're going to come back into the center. We're going to draw our knees into our chest one more time. We're going to hug our knees in as close as we can and just rock side to side. Last one from here, that was just to open the hips and the lower spine. You can move your feet around as well. You'll start to notice, if you do know me, I can't sit still, and that's not a bad thing. I just like to move around. I like to move my joints around. So from here, we're going to finish up with one more. Placing your fists into the ground. Knees are going to come in towards your chest. And then if you can, glue your knees together. We're just going to look to slowly roll over onto the left side into this spinal twist. You want to try and keep your right shoulder blade down on the ground the entire time. And if you want to, you can cross your legs over to go deeper. If not, you stay where you are here. You keep your knees stacked one on top of the other rather than letting one drop off this way. So you hold it there and you pull your right arm in the opposite direction for 3, 2, 1. With control, draw your belly in, come back up to the start. One more on the other side as you draw it up and over. You hold in that position there. Draw the right shoulder down, but also draw the left shoulder blade down. Cross the leg over if you want to make it more intense, or you stay where you are. Stacking one knee on top of the other. And again, bringing it back to why I do what I do. I think I've learned over my life lessons just throughout the times, throughout my experiences through sport, through school, through just life in general. There's no point trying to please anyone else. At the end of the day, your happiness is dictated by what you do and how you choose to see the world. And I realize that the less you care about what people think, the happier you can be. And for me, I like to share what I know because I know a lot of people don't have access to it. So I'm trying my best to share the knowledge so everyone has that opportunity to actually better their health. And remember that health is not just your physical body. I'm only teaching you that one side of it, but I'm trying to shed light on the mental, the emotional, all the other stressors in your life as well. I'm trying to piece them all together. As you come back into the center, you're going to slowly just let your legs fall into an open butterfly position as you bring one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. We're going to finish off with a breathing exercise here, just helping to slow the mind down. You can choose to keep your eyes open or your eyes closed, whatever you prefer. Being in a meditative state doesn't mean you have to have your eyes shut. Often I find that meditation is actually easier when I look into a blank space. So when I just look into the space in front of me, I'm not looking at any one thing in particular. But I'm focusing in on my breath and I'm trying to feel my belly rise and fall as I push into a diaphragmatic breath. So as I inhale, I'm going to inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. One last one, and in. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, and 4. Taking one last deep breath in, stretching your fingers overhead, arms interlinked, fingers interlinked rather. Keep your legs in butterfly and stretch, stretch, stretch. And then bring yourself back into the room.
多謝大家收睇今日嘅節目，下一集我哋有特別嘉賓，大家記住收睇啦，拜拜。